They say desperate men do desperate things. They climb mountains without gear. They gamble their last dollar on a losing horse. They walk into dark rooms where the door locks behind them simply because someone promised there was a bag of gold in the corner. I was a desperate man, and my dark room was Blackwood Manor. If you are listening to this recording, then the police have likely found my phone. You've probably found my car abandoned at the edge of the tree line, covered in frost and pine needles. You're probably wondering where I am. Or maybe you're wondering what I am now. My name is Elias Vance, and I need you to listen closely, not just to the words, but to the silence between them. Because in that house, the silence wasn't empty. The silence was hungry. This is the story of the 3 nights I spent at Blackwood Manor. It is the story of 3 simple rules that were given to me, and the 4th rule, the one they tried to hide. It started on a Tuesday in November, the kind of Tuesday where the sky is a flat, bruised purple, and the air smells like coming snow. I was sitting in my studio apartment, staring at a stack of eviction notices that had piled up like autumn leaves. I was 24, a failed graphic designer with $60,000 in student debt and exactly $12 in my checking account. I didn't need a miracle. I needed cash, fast. That's when I saw the ad on Craigslist. It was buried under the gigs section, sandwiched between an ad for a used sofa and a request for a dog walker. House sitter needed, remote location, 3 days, $5,000. Cash upon completion. Must be available immediately. Contact Mr. Hawthorne. $5,000 for 3 days. My brain knew it was a scam. It had to be. Nobody pays that kind of money just to watch a house. Maybe it was a drug front. Maybe it was some weird fetish thing. But my stomach rumbled, reminding me I hadn't eaten a real meal in 2 days. I called the number. A man answered on the first ring. His voice sounded like dry leaves scraping across concrete. Mr. Hawthorne speaking. "Hi," I stammered. "I'm calling about the house-sitting gig." "Ah, Elias, we've been expecting you." I froze. I didn't say my name. "Caller ID, son," he said, though the tone suggested something else entirely. "Can you be at the Blackwood Estate by 4 p.m. today? It's a 2-hour drive north of the city, deep in the Cascades." I looked at my empty fridge. "I'll be there." The drive up was brutal. The highway turned into a back road, and the back road turned into a dirt path that wound its way up the mountain like a scar. The trees here were ancient, towering Douglas firs that blotted out the sun, casting everything in an eternal twilight. When the GPS finally chirped, "You have arrived," I killed the engine and just sat there. Blackwood Manor didn't look like a house. It looked like a mausoleum. It was a Victorian monstrosity, 3 stories of dark stone and jagged turrets looming over a cliff edge. Ivy strangled the walls, the leaves dead and brown, looking like dried veins against the gray masonry. I stepped out of my beat-up Honda Civic. The cold hit me instantly. It wasn't just winter cold. It was a damp, pervasive chill that seemed to seep right through my jacket and settle in my bones. The front door opened before I even reached the steps. An old couple stood there, Mr. and Mrs. Hawthorne. They looked like they had been cut out of a 1920s photograph and pasted into reality. He wore a tweed suit that smelled of mothballs and pipe tobacco. She wore a high-collared velvet dress, her hair pulled back in a severe gray bun. "Elias," the man said. He didn't blink. His eyes were a pale, watery blue, clouded with cataracts. "You made good time." Thank you, sir." I reached out to shake his hand. His grip was surprisingly strong, but his skin felt wrong. It was dry, papery, and ice cold. It felt like shaking hands with a mannequin that had been left in a freezer. "We appreciate you doing this on such short notice," Mrs. Hawthorne said. Her voice was smoother, almost melodic, but it had an undercurrent of something sharp, like honey poured over broken glass. "We have urgent business in the city. We won't return until Friday morning." $5,000, right? I blurted. I wanted to be professional, but I needed to know this was real. Mr. Hawthorne smiled. It was a tight, thin smile that didn't reach his eyes. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a thick envelope. He fanned it open. Crisp $100 bills. "Half now," he rasped, pressing the envelope into my chest. "Half when we return, assuming, of course, the house is still standing." He chuckled, a dry, wheezing sound. "Heh, heh, heh." "Come inside," Mrs. Hawthorne said. "Let us show you the rules." The interior of Blackwood Manor smelled of old paper, dust, and something else I couldn't place. Something metallic, like copper or dried blood. The foyer was massive, dominated by a grand staircase that spiraled up into the shadows of the second floor. But the first thing I noticed were the paintings. They were everywhere. Oil portraits, dozens of them lining the hallway, staring down from the high walls. Some were clearly ancestors, men in military uniforms, women in corsets. Others were strange. Paintings of children playing with hoops, paintings of hunting dogs, paintings of empty rooms. "The house has a history," Mr. Hawthorne said, noticing my gaze. "It breathes, it settles. Do not be alarmed by the noises. Old houses like to talk to themselves." He led me into the kitchen. It was modern enough, stainless steel fridge, gas stove, but it felt out of place, like a graft on an old wound. "We have prepared a list for you," Mrs. Hawthorne said. She pointed to the marble island. There, sitting alone, was a single sheet of cream-colored paper typed on a typewriter. Beside it was a heavy iron key ring with 3 keys. "Read it," she commanded. I picked it up. The text was stark. The rules. Feed the cats, Luna and Sol, exactly at 6 p.m. Use the premium wet food in the pantry. Do not be late. Lock the back garden door and close all heavy drapes in the living room before sunset. Do not look out the windows after dark. Do not go to the 3rd floor or enter the master library after midnight, under any circumstances. I looked up. That's it? Don't go upstairs after midnight and feed the cats? Simple, isn't it? Mr. Hawthorne said. He moved closer to me. Too close. I could smell the decay on his breath. But simplicity requires obedience, Elias. The cats get restless if they're not fed. The windows let in the cold. And the 3rd floor, well, the floorboards are rotten. We wouldn't want you to fall. He was lying. I knew it. You don't pay someone $5,000 to avoid rotten floorboards. But I touched the envelope of cash in my pocket, and I swallowed my questions. "I understand," I said. "Good," Mrs. Hawthorne said. She walked to the back door, checking the lock. "We are leaving now. The cellular reception is poor out here, but there is a landline in the study if there is an emergency, though I doubt anyone could reach you in time if the weather turns." They walked out the front door. I followed them to the threshold. The wind had picked up, howling through the fir trees like a choir of screaming children. Mr. Hawthorne paused at his car, a vintage black Lincoln. He turned back to me, his face shadowed by the gloom. "One last thing, Elias," he said, his face shadowed by the gloom. "The house does not like to be mocked. Treat it with respect, and it will shelter you. Disrespect it, and—" He trailed off. He didn't finish the sentence. He just got in the car, and they drove away, the red taillights fading into the mist like dying embers. I was alone. The first few hours were fine. I explored the ground floor. The library, the one on the 1st floor, not the forbidden upstairs, was stocked with classics. The Wi-Fi password was on the fridge, and surprisingly, the internet was decent. At 5:55 p.m., I went to the kitchen. "Luna? Sol?" I called. From the shadows of the pantry, 2 shapes emerged. They were massive, Maine Coons maybe, but bigger. Luna was black as pitch, melting into the shadows. Sol was white, a stark, ghostly contrast. They didn't meow, they didn't rub against my legs. They just sat there, side by side, staring at me with unblinking yellow eyes. There was an intelligence in those eyes that made me uncomfortable. It felt less like I was feeding pets and more like I was paying tribute to minor deities. I opened the cans of wet food. It smelled rich, like expensive pâté, and dumped it into their bowls. "Eat up, guys," I muttered. They didn't move. They just watched me. I backed away, feeling foolish. Only when I left the kitchen did I hear the wet, smacking sounds of them eating. It sounded frantic, vicious, like wild animals tearing into a kill. I checked my watch. 6:05 p.m. Sunset. I went to the living room. It was a cavernous space with a high vaulted ceiling and a massive fireplace. The windows were floor-to-ceiling glass looking out over the overgrown garden and the dark woods beyond. Rule number 2, close the drapes before sunset. Do not look out the windows after dark.